All right, and we back on the forecast. Now, of course, we cannot ignore our own mental health issues. And in our community, we have a lot of mental health issues, and it's because of the trauma that we have been through. At the end of the day, we have to realize that we are all we got. We have to start building our own institutions to come help with whatever issues that we have, because we cannot call somebody who has shown us for hundreds of years that they do not care about us and will shed our blood at the drop of a dime. These people are already scared of us. So when we're dealing with mental issues, of course they're going to be terrified. But we don't have any other choice but to build these things for ourselves. Because when we have loved ones in our family who have mental issues and they have mental breakdowns and we need some help, we cannot call an enemy that is trained to harm us. But we don't have anybody to call. But we gotta understand that calling the quote unquote authorities in more cases than not is nothing but a death sentence. And we gotta stop acting surprised about it. In Texas, a brother Patrick Warren Sr., who was mentally ill, ended up getting shot and killed by Officer Reynaldo Contreras of the Killeen police. Now let's go back and see what happened to this brother.
Is the door open? Hello. Oh, man. Okay. No. I'm going to walk back out. I don't work like this. Let me see your hands. Get down. Get down on the ground. Hey, get down. Hey, do not shoot him. Hey, do not shoot him. Do not shoot him.
Hey, Dad, sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Please. No, I told you don't use a gun. 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 I told you don't use a gun.
As we update you on the tragic story of a 52-year-old man from Texas fatally shot by police. Patrick Warren's family is speaking out for the first time about their call for help that turned deadly. And now they want the officer to be fired and charged.
A Ring doorbell camera captures the chaos and soon a family's heartache when a Killeen, Texas police officer called to the home, first used his stun device and then shot 52-year-old Patrick Warren Sr., who family members said was in a mental crisis.
My father, he was outside and he was praising to the sky. He was saying different things like hallelujah, but he was super loud. We couldn't get him inside and we're like, okay, something's going on. We need to alert somebody.
Family members tell ABC News after they called the city's mental health hotline, a lone police officer, now identified as Reynaldo Contreras, arrived at the scene.
We had no idea they were sending out a police officer.
In the video, you can see Contreras walk into the house. Moments later, he comes back out. Then Warren comes out of his home, walks towards the officer, waving his arms in the air. He appears unarmed. You can hear family members urging police not to shoot.
Hey, do not shoot him. Do not shoot him.
Family and friends come into view as Warren and the officer are moving away from the house. This shaky cell phone video captures what happens next. The sounds of the stun device followed by gunshots.
Hey, Dad, sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Please. No, I told you don't use a gun.
The officer shot Warren 3 times as his mother, wife, and sons watched from the porch.
This is one of the worst police officer-involved shootings I've ever seen.
The family's attorney says the situation last Sunday should not have ended this way.
He showed up alone. He showed up untrained. He showed up hostile. All those things made for a deadly sort of cocktail, and this result could have completely been avoided.
The department says Officer Contreras, a 5-year veteran, has been placed on administrative leave pending the results of the investigation.
I try to think of things to just keep busy so I don't focus on that. It's hard to grieve when there's still a officer walking the streets that killed my father.
And local and state law enforcement officials in Texas tell ABC News the investigation is ongoing. According to the family's attorney, they are asking for that body camera footage to be released from the shooting. We are told the footage will not be released as evidence until it's been turned over to the Bell County DA and the prosecutor's office.
Now, this brother, Patrick Warren Sr., was having a mental health crisis. This brother was outside praising God, saying religious stuff, but he was talking real loud. Now, the day before this happened, his family called a mental health specialist who came and did what he was supposed to do. He calmed his brother down, took him to wherever he had to go, and brought him back home safely that night. So the family figured they just called the same guy again to get him to do the same thing. But this time they claim, I guess, the only mental health specialist in the area was busy doing something else and was unavailable. Now, even if you're forced to call some kind of authorities because your loved one is having a mental health breakdown, you have to be careful about what you say. Because believe me, they're going to use your words against you, just like they did his wife. Because when the family called, they did say he was being aggressive, but that's not what they meant. And they also said, no guns, don't kill him, but they didn't listen to that part. But when this cop, Reynaldo Contreras, got there, the family tried to send him away because they wanted the mental health specialist to come. They made it clear they weren't calling for the police. And clearly this cop didn't know what he was doing. He went in there for like 30 seconds saying, I don't work like this, turned around and walked out. And all he did was keep escalating the situation more and more. And just within a minute or two of him getting there, it got to the point where this brother started walking out the house. And he had his hands in the air in plain sight, and he kept saying, take it in faith, take it in faith. So I guess this cop terrified of this brother because they usually have this deep sense of fear. Because if you know anything, it comes from fear, guilt, all of that stuff. That's why they have to convince themselves they have this quote-unquote superior mindset and try to be in control all the time because it comes from an inferior place. And if you that scared, it's time to turn in your gun and badge. But this cop started tasing this brother. And of course, this brother was having mental issues and the taser wasn't working on him. So instead of this cop thinking, let me wait for backup to come or even ask his family to help me, he felt his only option was to pull out his gun and shoot this brother 3 times.
Today, new video was released in the Patrick Warren case. It was taken the day before Warren was shot and killed by a Killeen police officer. In it, a deputy trained to handle mental health episodes responds to the house after Warren's family called for help. And as 6 News reporter Andrew Moore shows us, there is a stark difference in the way 2 similar calls on 2 different days were handled.
Warren's family says a trained Bell County deputy came out the day before Warren was shot, was able to de-escalate the situation, and then get Warren some help. In these few brief seconds of Ring doorbell footage, you'll be able to see the differences between that trained deputy and the officer who would later shoot Warren. The Lee Merritt law firm provided this Ring doorbell video to 6 News. As you can see in the video, the trained deputy is relaxed, not in full uniform, and is not visibly carrying a gun. But he also put in the time. If you look at the time stamps, he made first contact with the family around 10:40, and he didn't leave with Warren until 11:53, more than an hour later. When Officer Contreras responded the next day, he was pacing outside the house, and he walked into the house and right back out in the same video clip, less than 30 seconds. Killeen PD hasn't responded to any of our questions about the incident or about their resources, and it's not clear if Contreras had any idea what situation he was walking into. Merritt law firm attorney Blair Elmazi says more departments need trained professionals that can handle these calls, and people are dying as a result.
It really is a crisis in America. Police officers shooting, people experiencing mental health crisis. Every police department looking to address that issue should have an office specifically dedicated to training and dispatching officers capable of handling those calls.
Elmasi told us Merritt's law firm is currently handling 12 similar cases. The family of Warren told us they had asked for that same deputy to come back out on Sunday, but they could not get him on the phone.
Officer Contreras was dealing with the incident right in front of him. He was not some rude, hostile officer. Get down on the ground.
Strong words tonight from Killeen's police chief, Charles Kimball, as he defends the officer involved in that deadly shooting of Patrick Warren. Today, Killeen's police chief, Charles Kimball, showed reporters the full body camera video of what happened that Sunday afternoon. It gives us a lot more information than we had just 12 hours ago. 6 News reporter Andrew Moore is in Killeen to walk us through this new video.
Ms. Bobby Warren called 911 on January 10th. But she also told the call taker that her husband was aggressive. He was almost physical.
While the Warren family asked for a mental health deputy the day Patrick Warren was shot, they also indicated the family could be in danger. And Chief Charles Kimball says that's why Officer Reynaldo Contreras tried to make contact with the family as soon as possible. But when he opened the door,
Come on, okay, come on in. I'm gonna walk back out.
he couldn't communicate with Warren, and then Warren made a barking sound. Contreras then walked out of the house to de-escalate the situation. Listen to the sounds Warren was making inside. Warren appeared at the door 90 seconds later. He walked halfway across the yard towards the officer before being tased.
You're gonna get tased. You're gonna get tased.
Then came something even more unexpected. Warren jumps to his feet immediately and runs at the officer. Contreras retreats past the edge of the yard, still trying to communicate.
Stay back. I'm gonna shoot you. I'm gonna shoot you.
Finally, he opens fire. Chief Kimball said today officers only have 40 to maybe 80 hours of mental health training and limited tools to handle a fully manic individual.
There are things that we are not capable to deal with. Our tools are very limited in dealing with persons that have mental health issues.
But he also said the officer was there to check on the family and did the best he could in that situation.
And I can't imagine putting myself in Officer Contreras' shoes because I believe the video show that he waited until the last possible second to use force.
The chilling moments after the shots were fired show an officer wishing things had gone differently.
I have no choice, man. Damn it.
And Contreras even walked back to Warren to pray in his final moments.
Hey, sir, I want to pray for you, okay? All right? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. Amen.
Now, after this cop shot this brother, you can see he was completely unprepared. He was scared out of his mind. And he had no business there or doing what he did. And then this cop, Reynaldo Contreras, had the nerve to sit there and try to pray for this brother after he shot him. And the paramedics let him stay right there for an extra second just so he can do that crazy stuff. And before he shot him, after he shot him, the whole time, you can hear this brother's son, his whole family saying, don't use a gun, don't use a gun. But he still felt like that was his only option. And of course, they had to roll out the token Negro, the police chief, Charles Kimball, to go out there and put his cape on and start caping for this cop, talking about this brother was almost violent.
And the family's attorney says they are unhappy with how this investigation has progressed so far. 6 News reporter Jasmine Caldwell further explains what led up to Sunday's shooting, including new information released by Warren's family this afternoon.
Days after 52-year-old Patrick Warren was shot and killed by Killeen police officer Reynaldo Contreras. His family, along with civil rights attorney Lee Merritt, met with Bell County District Attorney Henry Garza, but Merritt says not without a hiccup.
The district attorney's office for this county is responsible for investigating officer-involved shootings, all officer-involved shootings from day one. Mr. Garza has indicated because of weather concerns, they were not there on the day of the shooting.
He says Garza said it's too soon to speak with the family because there is evidence his office was not able to review.
There's no reason that a mental health call like this should result in a fatality. Mr. Warren was not aggressive. Mr. Warren was not armed. He was in his home. He was on his lawn. He was within his rights to reject the services of law enforcement after they arrived. Their responsibility was simply to leave or send the appropriate personnel to deal with this particular crisis. They failed this family in every way, and it's left them shattered.
Merritt said Warren's family first called for a mental resource officer on Saturday because he was having what Merritt called a manic episode. KPD sent a mental health officer, and Warren went to the hospital voluntarily. The next day, Warren was home again, and Merritt said he had another manic episode. The family called KPD again, but this time Officer Contreras showed up. Contreras went inside the Warren home, but was asked to leave because the family wanted a mental health officer. Video from a doorbell camera shows Contreras leave, but it then cuts to Warren walking at Contreras while waving his arms. Then, out of view of the camera, Contreras tases Warren, and when that doesn't work, he shoots him.
This was an officer who was poorly equipped to handle a fairly mundane situation and quickly resorted to violence in a way that was unnecessary.
The family says they plan to file a civil suit against the Killeen Police Department and are calling for Contreras to be fired immediately.
Officer Contreras is currently on administrative leave. Police Chief Charles Kimball says there are many more facts in this case that are not available to the public. He's asking for patience as the investigation proceeds. I wish I never called the police. Those are the words of Patrick Warren Jr., the son of the man shot and killed by a Killeen police officer on Sunday. 6 News reporter Jasmine Caldwell spoke to him today as he described what it's been like losing his father.
For Patrick Warren Jr., watching the video of his dad's final moments alive is heartbreaking.
I broke down watching it like this can't be happening.
Warren says he had to call the police on his father twice because his dad would walk throughout the neighborhood shouting religious phrases, something he hadn't done before. He said when the family called police, they hoped a mental health officer would show up, but instead, Killeen Police sent Officer Reynaldo Contreras, and from there, the mental health call for Patrick Warren Sr. turned into tragedy.
It's been hard, but I'm staying focused because I feel like my father has like a battery in my back. It's almost like a fire underneath me right now. It's like until the officer is actually arrested, I can't stop. I can't relax. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't grieve until I know that justice is actually happening.
Warren says his family moved from Bryan to Killeen 2 years ago. He said in a time of need, his dad was always the go-to guy.
And when I say that, it's, hey, something's going on with my car. Let me ask Dad. Hey, how do you do this? Let me ask Dad. Hey, can you mow my lawn? You ask him. My dad was someone that was great with his hands.
Civil rights attorneys are calling for a thorough investigation and for Contreras to be fired. Meanwhile, Warren wishes things in his life could be different.
I wish I took more pictures. I wish I would have made more time to just sit there and really pray. I wish I wouldn't have called the police. I wish I wouldn't have called a mental health officer. I wish things could just be different.
Now, of course, they're already going to make excuses for this cop. And the DA won't even talk to this brother's family. And you know, all they're going to do is sweep it under the rug until everybody forget about it. And then they'll put this cop right back out there patrolling the same streets. But for now, they'll just give him his paid vacation that you usually get when you kill a black person. But again, this is just one more reason we have to start dealing with our own issues. Why we have to build our own institutions. We can't keep going to sociopaths and psychopaths and people who are just generally scared of us, expecting them to help us. Because this same thing keeps happening over and over. We might not want it to happen that way, and we might just be trying to get our loved ones some help. But time and time again, it has showed us that too often it ends up as a death sentence for our loved one. And we wish that we never called the police. And sometimes, yes, you do need help. But it's important for each one of us to do our part so that we can have help in situations like this instead of going through the same thing over and over again, seeing our blood being shed and nothing happens. And until we realize that we are all we got, and I'm going to keep saying that because we are all we got. And until we learn that and understand that and really feel that, then this same thing is going to keep happening.
Now, let me say something right quick. I think back on the African-American people in America. I think how that they were taken against their wills, put in the belly of ships, brought over here, beat, cussed. Many of them died in the guts of those ships, thrown overboard. They were pulled from families over there. You ain't never heard a gut-wrenching song. Do you hear a black person sing one of those old black Negro spirituals? Nobody knows. I can't sing it like that, see, because I hadn't experienced what they be. When you've experienced hell, it comes out of the voice. I said, when you experience hell, it comes out of the voice. If you're one of those people that you got problem with black people or whatever, you better shut your mouth, because they're God's people. You better hear what I'm saying to you. You better shut your white mouth. You better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you. I know some of you was raised in the deep South, and you was raised by prejudiced people and bigoted people. You better get that out of your system. You better get it out of your system. It'll cause you to suffer right along with those masters. It'll cause you to suffer right along with them. These are God's people. And I know that there's wicked in white races and wicked in black races and all that. I'm not justifying none of that stuff. I'm just saying God knows what happened to the black race. He knows how they wound up over here, and God is going to reimburse the black people for all their trouble and all their labor. You watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you.
It seems to me like they furnished him a house to live in. They furnished them clothes to put on their back. They furnished them food to put on their table, and all they had to do was fucking work.
Dan Bongino is. He's on Fox News all the time. He said, you know, what they're saying now is, well, you didn't have to shoot him. It's just a taser. Then how come when you tase a fucking nigger, it's like you done killed him 27 times? The guy's running, he's got the taser in his hand, and you see him, and he turns, and you see him fire the taser at the officer.
Okay, what would he have done if it had hit the officer? Go over there and get his gun and kill him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or what if one of them projectiles would have struck him in the eye? Yeah. The act of him firing that taser at an officer is an aggravated assault because he has not been trained in the proper use. An officer, if I go to tase somebody, I know to shoot low. I know what to do. He doesn't know.
That's right.
And that mayor up there, she's already fired the officer. And without a hearing. And she's pushing real hard. They say she's now the front runner to be Joe Biden's vice presidential candidate.
You kidding?
If I had a fucking mayor, I'd rather the mayor than Stacey Abrams.
Can I have an apology from you, sir, for telling me to get back on the boat?
Yeah, if you don't
to go back to Africa? You think that's okay?
Yeah, I do.
So are you going
This
to
is
tell me to
America.
go back to the
We
border?
didn't bring you here. Your people. Yes, I don't care if she records me.
If you have
Your
the
people.
audacity to
So
I just want to know if you're going to apologize for telling me to go back to Africa. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Love it or leave it.
It's okay.
You don't like it here, go back to Africa.
Okay. Say it again.
Barred us from traveling. You don't like it here, go back to Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, over here. Okay.
They should be investigating him for the criminal charges he should be facing.
Right now, calls for justice after cell phone video shows an Osceola County school resource deputy slamming a student to the ground. The family of the girl is speaking out tonight, saying that They're depressed and traumatized by what happened this week at Liberty High School in Osceola County. The case has grabbed national attention and brought a nationally recognized attorney to Central Florida today to represent the family. Good evening to you. I'm Eric Von Aken. Thanks for joining us tonight for News 6 at 7. In a press conference in just the past few hours, Taylor Bracey's family demanded that the Osceola County deputy be fired. News 6's Jerry Askin was at that press conference this afternoon. He's now live at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. Jerry.
Eric, hey, yeah, more calls for justice for 16-year-old Taylor Bracey. I was at that press conference that wrapped up here at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office a short while ago. Meantime, we know civil rights attorney Ben Crump is now representing that girl's family, and her parents told me they want justice. What's been the hardest part of all this for you, man?
Seeing the video, for one, of my daughter, and then just living with her, trying to comfort her through this.
16-year-old Taylor Bracey's mom still can't believe the actions by this Osceola County Schools resource officer. That's her daughter being slammed to the ground here in this viral video. She says the deputy's actions are inexcusable as her daughter continues to recover.
My daughter is having headaches, blurry vision. You know, she's having trouble remembering things, having a hard time sleeping.
Taylor life matters. Taylor life matters.
Saturday, more calls for justice for Taylor Bracey.
I ain't that much of a talker, but I just want to see justice for my daughter.
And now we know civil rights attorney Ben Crump is representing Taylor and her family.
Just like you can't convince me Taylor Bracey did anything to justify this brutality.
Crump says she was knocked unconscious after being slammed to the ground. The sheriff said Deputy Ethan Fournier is now on paid leave as the FDLE investigates. Sheriff said the deputy was trying to stop a disruption at a school function and the girl was not complying with the deputy's demands. Though Bracey's family is calling for the deputy's termination and they want a community-wide task force to lead the investigation, not the FDLE.
It's depressing. She's depressed. I'm depressed. We all are traumatized about what happened.
What? Second, bro, you do this in public? Can't tell me walk outside.
What did he do? We just
in front of my family?
But he did nothing. Y'all got the wrong person. We don't even have a black truck.
A black truck, bro?
We don't have a black truck. We just came to the mall. What did he say?
But you know, I record this. I'm taking out the court, bro.
Okay, but don't snap.
Serious?
But what did he do?
You let me talk to you. You lucky you got these cuffs on me.
Babe, don't snap.
Take me to the front,
fine.
yo.
But what did he do?
Take me to the front now.
Can you tell us? We just came with our family. We don't even have a black truck.
Yo, get off me.
Jamar, don't snap. Wait a second. Come here. Come report this. Report. Follow them. Follow them. What did he do? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Get this blade straight to me, nigga.
Jamar, what are you doing? Y'all fucking racist as fuck. We in here with our family.
Are you serious right now, dog?
What? No, y'all, this is so fucking embarrassing. We are with our family. I got my baby here, newborn. Why do y'all have him? But what did he do? He didn't do anything.
I know.
Mom got my ass. We with our fucking kids. You don't do that. That is so. You know what's going on in the fucking world today. We with our fucking kids.
I'm going to jail. We
don't do nothing. We stay in the house. He didn't do nothing. Do you know how embarrassing that is?
Your man just said
you can't fucking.
He's still on me?
Might be the wrong one.
It is the wrong person. We told you asked him about a black truck, and we said y'all didn't even give him. Y'all didn't give him a chance to explain. You said, do you have a black truck? He doesn't. We don't even drive a black truck.
That nigga's arrest me while I'm in.
We're our fucking kids.
What my?
Okay, relax.
No.
You ask questions.
But y'all fucked up.
You don't do that. We're with our kids, but you ask questions first. You didn't even give him a chance to ask a fucking question.
No.
You can't expect him not to be upset. You can't expect him. We with our fucking kids in the mall. That's so embarrassing.
Are you serious?
But you ask questions. I get it if you thought he fit the profile of somebody else. But ask him a question.
What's his name?
You didn't even ask the question.
Something come. You're going to see me again.
But you ask. You can't. But you don't do this. We're with our kids. You think he'll forget this? You think my son will forget this?
And I would like to.
I'm I know you will.
Please, Jamar, let him take them off. Just
man came to arrest me while I'm eating, no words.
And I would like to explain.
No, ain't no explaining.
Okay.
You're free to go, and I would like
Yo,
to
yo,
explain to
just
you
get these
what's going
fucking
on.
cuffs off me.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
talk to me, motherfucker.
Yes, sir.
Come on,
I
let's
got
go.
your name. What's
Let's
your
just
name?
go. We're leaving.
All right, I'm gonna see your ass again, bitch.
It's all right. Just
Fuck wrong with
come
you,
on,
man?
let's
I'm
go.
asking you, I'm
leaving.
eating no questions.
It's
Don't
fine.
move.
I would
Don't
like
move.
to explain to you what's going
Wait,
on.
I don't give a
Walk
fuck
with
what's
me.
going on.
I want to know.
Explain it before you put the cuffs on me.
Take him. Go ahead. Y'all go. Y'all go.
Bitch,
Explain to me what happened.
Listen,
I want to know.
we got a description of someone that was using stolen credit cards, okay?
Stolen
That
anything.
person
I got it. Let me listen.
is a black man with dreads and was wearing all black and was with a boy that was wearing red, okay? I could show you the case. He's wearing all black.
So this is them right over here.
Come on, yo.
Black man with dreads.
Another black male with red
and a
dreads.
boy with red.
But the thing is, y'all.
I sincerely apologize. It was a
I mean, y'all just that was so embarrassing.
If he was using
And then he
Oh, man, you put me in handcuffs while I'm taking a bite from my son?
then I went to talk to him about it. I would have just taken him into custody and detained him, okay?
Nah, bro.
I understand
You
it's
did that shit all
embarrassing.
Do you have a card?
I sincerely
You did that shit all
apologize.
wrong.
I
You did
sincerely
that shit all
apologize.
wrong. That was
It's
professional.
fine. It's
That was
alright.
nothing. That was
Do you have a card?
stereotyping, and that's how y'all do black
It was
motherfuckers,
definitely
dog.
stereotyping because things could have been handled in a different way. It
That's what
definitely
y'all do to
is.
us. That's why we fight for this shit now.
I understand.
Can I have a card
This
from
how we
somebody?
get treated in 2020. In 2020.
You can have a name.
That's how I get treated,
That's
bro.
fine.
You have the right to be upset, sir.
That's why we fighting. That's why they fucking y'all up.
You have the
It's
right
all right,
to be upset.
babe. It's all right.
That's why, bitch.
It's all right. It's fine. We leaving. I'll take the name and the number.
2020, nigga.
That's
It's the fucking
crazy.
70s.
Somebody I can contact outside of this environment right now.
So she can have my name, Sergeant. KG.
What we march for? What we say Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, that's what we say.
Yes, sir.
Look how y'all treat us. In front of people. Like I'm the wrong motherfucker.
It's fine, baby.
I own businesses.
It's all right.
Just give her the
Black Lives Matter, y'all see why we fight. Fuck, niggas. Come on, man.
Fathers fight over a classroom lesson he says should have never been assigned. The lesson is focused on the Black Lives Matter movement, something he says doesn't align with his family's beliefs. CBS 13's Marissa Perlman is live outside the school in Citrus Heights on this with this curriculum controversy, Marissa.
Yeah, Garen Bratcher isn't happy. His 14-year-old daughter, Ella, in her freshman year here at San Juan High School, is getting lessons about the Black Lives Matter movement. And Ella, too, spoke with us today. She's worried about how her beliefs may impact her grade.
It just really made me uncomfortable in class.
14-year-old Ella Bratcher doesn't want to learn about the Black Lives Matter movement in her ethnic studies class, and her dad agrees.
It's going to create that divide in the classroom, and that becomes dangerous to a student.
The class is being taken online, but Garen emailed her teacher asking for an alternate lesson plan, calling BLM a radical group.
The ethics behind them is not something that you should be teaching a 14-year-old child. It sounded more like a recruitment seminar than it did an educational experience.
His request was denied. The class isn't required for Ella to graduate, but every freshman at San Juan High School is automatically enrolled in ethnic studies. In an email the family shared with CBS 13, Ella's teacher says the framework for the class comes from the Department of Education, and the teacher would only modify a lesson plan for a student with an individualized education plan in special education. Tanya Faison, founder of Sacramento's Black Lives Matter movement, says it's important for all young people to learn about Black history, and that includes BLM.
It's about time that our schools are teaching our kids the truth, somewhat of the truth about history in our country.
They just maced it.
Yeah, protect yourself. Look at Harvey, period. Say that again, brother. Oh, oh.
Now to the concerns of another community that too often feels unprotected and the group that's stepping up to do something about it. They're known as the NFAC, an unarmed all-black militia. You might have seen an armed black militia that you might have seen at protests in Georgia, Kentucky, and D.C. Joining us now from Atlanta with more on this, NBC News correspondent Morgan Radford. Morgan, tell us about this group.
Mika, good morning. The bottom line is this group says that the U.S. government, as well as law enforcement, simply does not do enough to protect black Americans in this country, which is why they say they're taking matters into their own hands. And interestingly, Mika, this is a group that is growing. They say they now boast recruits in nearly every single state. So we decided to go and embed with them and see exactly what they're doing and why. Take a listen. The sounds of war. Right here at home. This is the NFAC, an all-black militia with a mission to defend the black community by any means necessary. So this is training for one of the new chapters. Yes. Appearing by the hundreds at protests from Stone Mountain, Georgia to Louisville, Kentucky, demanding justice for police killings and countering what they believe is the threat of right-wing militias. It's a movement started in 2017 by this man, former musician and Army veteran John Grandmaster J. Johnson. Is the movement growing?
By leaps and bounds.
We met with him outside of Cincinnati, where he says another new chapter is now in the works.
The NFAC stands for the Not Effing Around Coalition.
What's behind the name?
The NFAC was born out of the last 4 years under the Trump administration. The deterioration of racial relations in this country. It means that you're preparing yourselves to defend yourselves.
While the group's style echoes the Black Panther Party of the 1960s, their goals are distinct, focusing on defense with the ultimate goal of a black ethno-state.
What makes us so different is that our goal is our own government, our own country, a place where we can determine our own future.
Is violence an option to reach your goals?
The United States was built on violence being an option. Violence should be the last option.
Extremism experts say the group is distinct from far-right militias.
They have not risen to the level of concern of, say, the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers. They have not engaged in violence. In fact, in most of their demonstrations, they have, in fact, coordinated their activities with police.
When you talk about January 6th, and we saw those rioters storm the Capitol, what do you say to critics who say you're no different from them? They're extremists, you're extremists.
Show me where we have done those things. They've killed people. They've disrespected the government to the point where they have invaded its sacred halls. Show me where we've done those things, because we have done none of them.
We were allowed rare access to one of their training sites at a secret location in rural Georgia. We are now driving to the NFAC training facility. We spoke to one member who chose to go by the code name Shy to protect her anonymity. This one is the handgun.
Correct, yes.
And then what do you guys do next?
We are going to the area where we practice our primary weapons firing.
Why did you decide to join this movement?
It's for the cause. Black people, we need to learn how to defend it. This is definitely one way to do it.
Do you all, have normal jobs? You work in all different sectors? And
absolutely. We're business owners, we're doctors, lawyers, we're your everyday person, anywhere from Walmart to the corporate sector.
What are you all training for?
We're training for self-defense.
A response to show they won't be scared or unprotected any longer.
First you tell us that it is manly to keep your word. All right, if you are a man, you keep your word. And now all that the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well then, show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well then, stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground that we will match you and we will override you. And if that's what you're afraid of us, then tell us that just what you're afraid of. But don't keep hiding it from us and holding this up to us, and every time we ask you for something, you give us a little bit of something, and it's all tokenism. We don't want tokenism. And there are most black men in this world that don't want charity. And yet still every time we ask you for something, you give us a little piece, a little piece. You're playing games with us. We're not children. We're big men. I've seen my father have to put up with all kinds of stuff. He was a big man. He raised a family. He went down south, and he had to go around to the back door with his wife. We're not asking for anything. We're not asking for any favors. All we want is what's ours. Now, there are many black veterans who are coming back, and they're mad. They're angry. Do you think that they're going to sit down through this? Our fathers didn't have the knowledge that we had. They sat through it. But there are other black youth that are not going to sit through it. We know about Che. We know about Fanon. We've read the books of our revolution. We've listened to Mao and his quotations. We know where we stand. We're not going to sit for it. We're asking, and if we ask and we don't get, we're prepared to stand up and take it. If I ask a man, I tell a man I am hungry. I tell him I am cold. And I ask him to do something about my condition. And this man holds a loaf of bread right in front of me so I can see it, and I keep asking him, I'm begging him to please give me a slice of the loaf of bread. I am hungry. Then it is known by every psychologist that the next step in the progression is I am going to knock him upside the head and take the bread from him. I'm not going to starve to death. All we're asking, no one wants to see blood. No one likes the smell of blood. No one wants war. Anyone who's been in war doesn't want war. Everyone knows what it is to see the inside of a man's gut hanging out and see your friends die, see relatives die. No one wants to regress back to the state of mind where you have to think it's all for the cause, therefore my mother has to die, my wife has to die, my brothers and sisters have to die. No one wants that. But you're pushing us to it. You're leaving us no choice. We're asking, we're begging. The students up at Columbia, they ask. The brothers down south ask. The brothers in Latin America, the brothers in Africa, they're all asking. All they're doing is asking. Our fathers asked. Our grandfathers asked. The presidents of our universities, our colleges had to go to your back doors to beg that their children be given just enough money so that they could be taught something to live off. And yet still, they asked and asked and asked, and you refused to give them anything. Now, we're just about out of patience. We're not going to ask anymore. The news media says that it's only the young that are militant, only the young that want this and want that. Okay, but we're 40% of the black population now. Or we were a year ago, and still yet we're climbing. Before long, we'll be 50%, 55%, and then we'll have the command. We're not going to take it. We're not going to take sitting in rotten parks and in places that just aren't fit for living. We're not going to take it. There's a limit to a man's patience, and everyone knows that God, Christ, heaven, everyone knows that what we're asking is not $1 million. All we're asking for is humanity. We're asking to be allowed to live like human beings. And God, you tell us that this is too much to ask. You're sick. You're definitely sick. How can you tell me that it's too much to ask